Good morning, everyone. I
Bonito día.
hope that you're having a good day. My name is Gustavo Gordillo. I'm the outreach coordinator at Impact Beaverton. And also with me is my colleague Rob Radayu. His name is a little complicated to pronounce. And also today with us, we're going to talk about a great topic. And to do that, we have a friend here, a colleague who's been an advisor with us for a long time, Claudia Cardenas. She's going to present a great topic about how to start my food cart. Today, our presentation is going to be with a wonderful interpreter, that's Jessica Dover. Please choose your language in English and Spanish so that you can understand in your language. Okay, we're going to be recording this as a resource, and we're going to leave it on our Impact Beaverton YouTube channel. And we're going to have a Q&A session. We're going to leave that to the end to be able to answer them a little more easily. Okay, Claudia, welcome everyone, and Claudia, welcome, and let's get going. Thank you so much, Gustavo. Thank you so much for the invitation. I really love all of this, and it's so great that our people can be informed, they can be ready to learn. And if you have any type of question, go ahead and put them in the chat so that if during the presentation, Gustavo can help us and answer questions, and I can answer any questions that you may have. So today, all right. My name is Claudia Cardenas, and for the last 5 years, I've been involved in economic development for multiple industries in the Portland metro area and Washington County. I've also worked for about 5 years for Washington County, and my job is as a consultant. And I support the whole Latino community to open and grow their businesses. Right now, we're creating programs and opportunities with you. For example, the program about how to open my own food cart or my restaurant or any type of business that you want to open. I have been working on programs to help different organizations, chambers of commerce. I've been doing this for a good amount of time. So if you have any questions, go ahead and ask. As a business owner myself, I can understand the importance of education. It's really important that we are always on the cutting edge of what's going on, and we have to know what we're doing. And also, more than anything, we have to figure out how we're going to grow our businesses. So especially in this new era, we have to understand, how our business is working. We want it to work the same as it did before the pandemic. So we're first going to talk about business basics. What are the business basics? First thing is to have a good business plan. So you have to do a market study. You have to know where we're going to locate our food cart, because if we have a food cart, the location is going to be really important, because we could sell tacos, we could sell, salads, we could sell Chinese food, but our goal or our target audience, if they're not there, we're going to run into problems, right? So it's important to have a lot of awareness about that. And, we have to think about what the type of food we're going to sell, the licenses and permits that we need to have. For example, I put an X. Can you see that little X that I put there, what I'm putting on the screen? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So So that has to do with the government, right? So we're going to talk about the state. This is the state, this is the federal government, this is the city, and this is the county. County, and sorry. But it's just so that you can kind of have that visual in your mind. So where we're going to get started, we're with this process, we're going to start on the county over here on this side. That's step 1. Step 2, 3, and 4. So why do we have to start with the county? Well, because there is where we're first going to turn in that application to see if we are going to be able to open a food cart. If the food cart is going to be, if it has the correct specifications, if you're going to need to implement things such as the menu, if the menu is, if it's very well defined. So there's a ton of questions that the county is going to ask you. So that's through the health department. And so before getting started with registering your business or getting your EIN number to do our taxes, with the city, the first thing we have to do is start with the county. All right. Legal assistance is really important. Remember that, for example, if we're going to have a food cart, we're going to have a contract where we're going to be operating, right? So we need to understand that contract. And a lot of my clients have told me that, you know what, I signed a contract and I was filling it out where I'm selling, what I'm selling in my food cart, and now they want to take me out of this place. And I thought I was, I've only been there 5 months. And remember that a legal contract is really important. So Gustavo has connections with the Small Legal Clinic, SBLC. And that is a free program. And sometimes, if you need an attorney in the future, it could be really cheap for you to use that service. So they also have an accountant. So restaurants, food carts are all different. So you need to have an accountant to help you in the tax processes that you need to do. The general rules of Oregon. What are the Washington County and Multnomah County rules? At the at the end, I'm going to give you some links because that's going to have information in Spanish so that you can have a better understanding of these city rules, of the county rules, and the general regulations for Oregon. Then we're going to talk about government resources. So there we are. So the content of this presentation, we're going to talk about mobile units and what are the different types, how are each one of them classified, what are the different licenses you have to have, and we have to, how you have to prepare your food and what type of food you can prepare according to the classification, and also where you can find a commercial kitchen. Other things that we have to talk about, gray water, fresh water, there's all sorts of things you have to have in your food cart. So we're going to, where you're going to put your gray water, for example. So are there any questions up to now? Okay. So let's get started. There are 4 types of food carts. It depends on several factors. The type of food, that's the classification that you're going to have. The type of food, the type of car, the cart, the classification of cart. So there are 4 classifications that we're seeing today. For example, in those categories, for example, you can't go to the county and say, I want to open a food cart and then just have them approve you. There has to be an inspector, and it's going to depend on the classification you have on your food cart. The inspector is going to go inspect the place, and they're going to approve you after that. So, since not every food cart has the ability to cook, you might have to find a commercial kitchen. And so what are commercial kitchens? Or with commissary kitchens. So you can find them, all counties have a list of commercial or commissary kitchens. If anybody has any questions about what is a commissary kitchen or commercial kitchen, please go ahead and ask. And if not, so a commercial kitchen or commissary kitchen is where you can go and rent the space, make the food that you're going to sell, and it's going to be based or and you can put it together. You can wrap it in foil, or you can wrap it in a box or paper, and so you can sell that at your food cart. And the food cart is where you can move that. How would you say it? So that's where sorry, it went out of my head, but you can basically sell your commissary kitchen-based things at that type of food cart. So for example, if you're gonna make burritos, for example, and you go to the commercial kitchen and you have a classification in each cart, you can't touch that food until you take it out of the commissary kitchen, take it there, and there you can deliver it to your clients, customers. It's a little bit complicated, but right now we're seeing the cart classifications. We'll have a better understanding of what we're talking about. So why am I saying this? Because we're talking about terminology. So a lot of people ask when they're filling out the application, these are all just the different types of terminology that we explain when you're filling out your application, so you have a better understanding about what term means what. So perishable items or perishable food. Those food items are things that that includes everything that's meat, cheeses, anything that has not been processed or not been pre-cooked. So those are perishable items. So when you're filling out your application, that's what that means. All food that has not been cooked, anything raw is considered a perishable item. Potable water. There is one exception to the number one classification. All the carts have to have potable water in the water compartments. You have to have one that's for clean water and one for gray water, right? So now we're going to talk about that too later on. Used water or dirty water, gray water, you have to store that and get rid of that in a way that is approved by the health agencies and by the county health department. You can't, for example, take your gray water, gallon full of gray water, and just dump it in the sewer or in a bathroom or something like that. So you have to dispose of it of a place that's been approved by the health department. Usually a pod, that's a parking space where you can typically park your food cart in its places. There are big spaces where, in general, the pods are going to offer a dumpster, they offer electricity, and they offer those facilities to be able to get rid of your old water. So everything has to be approved before you go to a space and rent a place. You need to ask all these questions. The storage or warehouse. That's a place where you can store your food. For example, my clients have used their garage as a storage area, but careful, that garage has to be approved by health inspectors as well. Those inspectors have to come to inspect the place where you're going to store that food. Typically, there are refrigerators or places where you can store your food, and everything has to be located correctly, and the inspector is going to make sure that everything is where it should be and that the food is stored correctly. And also they're going to talk with you about the ovens, the temperatures, and the refrigerators. So next. So we're going to get started, but any questions up to now? So we're going to talk about Class 1 food carts. For example, these food carts do not need water storage. You can bring water to wash your hands, and you can also bring and dispose of your water. It's just hand washing water, not gray water, okay? So prepackaged food. As we've said before, prepackaged food is Class 1. So you're not going to be able to have any contact, to prepare your food in this type of in this type of food cart, right? You have to have it already packaged up and ready to give out or to sell, and it has to be ready to sell to the customer. You're not going to open it at any time. You can't have any contact with it. Okay. So for Class 2, this is really similar to Class 1, but here you can have contact with the food, but you do have to have here a sink to wash your hands, and you have to have potable water, and you have to have those 2 compartments, the 5-gallon compartments. Those are really necessary to be able to operate this type of food cart. Permitted food here include everything. You're just not going to be able to cook in this particular type of food cart. You can't do any type of cooking, or you can't have any cooked type of food. You just have to have it all ready to go. So you will have had to have made it in that commissary kitchen and brought it to the cart. Specifications for Class 3 food carts. The specifications for this type of class, this has to be a stationary food cart. For example, you can see you're going to have to have already checked out if there's a pod or a parking space with a lot of food carts there. And you probably have seen these before, but you always have to have your 5-gallon compartments for your water. That's required. That's one of the basic requirements through the health department. And here you're going to use refrigeration. You're going to use ovens to keep your food at the appropriate temperatures. And you can't cook food here. You also can bring all your pre-prepared food from the commissary kitchen. The only difference is that here you can heat it up. So you can heat up food or tortillas. You can use microwave or ovens to do a little bit of preparing of your food in these types of carts. The requirements of this specific type of food cart is that you have to have a place to wash all of your utensils. For example, you have to have a sink to wash dishes, and that's a really important requirement for this type of food cart. And that's really important. I'm going to send you this presentation so that you can, take a look at your leisure, and you can really make sure that that everything that you want for your food cart is ready to go so that you kind of know what the process is before you open it. And this is to give you so when you go to Washington County, you just want to make sure that you have all of your requirements in line. So now, let's go to class 4 food carts. These specifications, basically, you're going to have a complete menu in this type of food cart because you're going to have all the specifications of class 1, 2, and 3. Here you have to have, typically people have to have a little bit bigger compartments for the water, but 5 gallons is the requirement. And it's a little bit bigger. The gray water one tends to be a little bit bigger. My clients typically have mentioned that it's easier to have someone there who comes to do that service and to take care of the gray water. So they just take care of cleaning and everything, because in these types of food carts, remember that here you have to cook, you have the grease, everything. The health department is going to have specific requirements, and they especially if you have grease, you don't want the grease to get mixed with the they don't want grease going into the sewers, for example. A very specific requirement is that you have to have a sink and a place to wash dishes. Here you have to have a place where you are going to prepare all your meat, and then you have to have another space for your vegetable. You can't mix them up at all in this type of cart. You have to have 2 separate sinks. So you have to have one for meat and one for the rest of your food, so you can't mix them. What else? And the inspector is going to ask for a diagram of all of your food carts. So for each class. So a diagram or a blueprint, it's like house blueprints where it's going to specify where each part is. For example, if you have your sink, what type of sink you're going to use, the refrigerator, where your water compartments are going to be. So you just have that very well specified. Remember that if you're going to buy a food cart, don't buy it new. Specifically, if you're starting out your business, you do not need a new food cart. So if you're going to make that investment, that's great, that's fine. But there are a lot of used one. There are places where you can get, there you can always get a ton of food carts that have already been used. They've already passed inspection. So you probably won't have to worry about all of that, right, if you buy a used one. So the license, we're going to talk about licensing for your food cart. Like I was saying, if you've thought about remodeling a cart that was already working or was already operating as a food cart that already passed inspections or specifications, typically it would be easier for you to get it operating faster. And it's going to be cheaper for you too. That investment's going to be less, especially if you are starting a food cart. If you're thinking about remodeling a food cart, well, you will have to you're going to have a little bit longer section to put on your application. So for example, if you can say that it had a license before, right? And if that person sells you their food cart, so they just have to change over the owner. It's really important to do that, right? So because if you do not change the ownership of the cart over to you, that could put you in a lot of danger. For example, people have so if someone who had the cart before had debt, or if someone before. So it's really important to change the title, change the name over to you, because you have to show that they're selling you that cart. So ask all those questions so that you can do a reinvention of that cart, because a lot of times people think like, oh, I have my food cart, I'm going to do this, this, and this, but we have to have that really clear in our minds about the title of it, because you don't want to, you know, you don't want things to go bad in the exchange of changing over owners. Something else that's very important, for example, if you already have the application turned into Washington County and you want it to be approved quicker, you basically have to take the food cart to the county, and right there they can do the inspection. And it's a lot faster than waiting for the inspector to go to the location where you're going to have the cart. They can also go to the location, but you can't have it in operation until it's been checked. Another thing that's important are bathrooms. All the food carts have to have bathrooms. I'm not really sure how many feet they have to be, but you can ask the inspectors how big they have to be. It has to have a bathroom very close by. So these specifications for food carts by class, this is a really easy visual to explain what we were just talking about up to now. The cost of the licensing, what type of food is allowed in each cart, how many gallons of potable water that you have to have. That's really important because if you don't meet that requirement, they're not going to approve you. So in this case, this is in Washington County. And this is basically the forms and requirements that you're going to need to meet to be here. Let's see, there are a lot of forms in Spanish so that you can have a better understanding of them. Based on those processes, Gustavo or myself can help you with these processes as well. And you can also have you can fill things out easier and safer if you come to one of us to help you. Questions up to now? Not that I see. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Rob?
Claudia, una pregunta de las
I have a questions about
participantes.
for the
¿Tienes la
participants.
presentación en inglés?
Do you have the presentation in English? I don't have it in English, but we could get it into English so that they could have it.
Sí, I can help. Thank you.
¿Más preguntas? Yo tengo
Any more questions? I have some questions here that are very important. So if anybody has a question come up, let me know. But really, one of the questions people ask, like, can I do catering? For example, can I do catering services out of my food cart? Someone says, okay, I'm gonna have a party, or somebody's asked me to make food for some type of an event. Can you just take your food cart and go park it at the event? So you can't exactly do that. You have to go through a process with the county. There's a very simple application. You have to put the menu in that you're offering. It has to match up with the classification of your food cart, and they give you a temporary permit where you just for that day can do that, or for several days. So that's a question that has come up for me before. Another question, when do I have to notify the county about my business? As I explained in that circle, it's really important to go step by step. So if we're thinking of opening a food cart, it's key that you do that county application first, because if they don't approve you, or if they take a while, like a year or something, to approve you, I mean, that's the first thing you have to focus on. So. There was a question about the storage. So can I store my food or the leftover food in my garage? As I've mentioned before, if your garage has to be inspected first. So if you have animals in your house, for example, pets, it's going to be immediately rejected. You're not going to be able to store any type of food there. If you have cats, dogs, in the house or the place where you're going to store the food, there's no way. They will not approve that space. Another very important question that I've been asked before: if my food cart, if it has to have electrical facilities or an electrical installation. You don't have to do that. You can buy a generator and bring your own electricity, or typically the place where you're going to rent your space, they typically are going to have electrical availability.
¿Qué otra pregunta?
What other questions?
Pues sí, hasta ahorita son las preguntas más.
So those are the main questions that they've asked me. Anybody else have any type of other questions? I have a question, Claudia. Hi, good morning. This is Mario Angel. What's the difference between not a food cart, but like a cart to sell juice or coffee or, that type of stuff? Okay, yeah. So for example, I'm going to go back to here. This is the specific class 1. For example, if you're going to serve pre-prepared coffee, or if you're going to make it there, it's like a Black Rock type of business, a place where, there'll be a couple people giving out, juice or organic juice or coffee, things like that. Yeah, so that would be through class 3 because there you're going to prepare the coffee there, right? Okay, thank you. You're not going to cook anything, right? It's going to be prepared, right? Yeah, okay. And if you don't want to, if you want to sell, cookies or like the little, pastries or something with the coffee, and if I just heat them up there, yeah, that's going to be class 3. All right, thanks so much, Claudia. Yeah, no problem.
¿Más preguntas?
More questions?
Pregúntenme que tenemos
Ask me,
15 minutos.
because we only have 15 minutes.
Tenemos tiempo.
We're running out of time. Hi, Claudia, soy Leticia Barcenas. Hi, good morning. I'm not in this field, but what's the process like? So if I'm looking at, or my son, or if I go to Gresham, Salem, all these different places, but I'm seeing a lot of places that are doing offering markets with these types of food carts. So they've asked me how do you get the land to do that, or how do you bring a cart there? And I told her, I don't know. I guess you go and buy one, but there's a ton of places with all these types of carts. So can you explain a little bit more about that process? Yeah, of course. So typically, for example, we can talk about, I don't know if you're familiar with the Beaverton, like BJ's, what's it called? Carts, Food Cartel, BJ's Food Cartel.
Son los carros de comida que están en
They're the food carts that are in Beaverton. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So there's a specific owner for that land, and the owner is renting each space for each person. They have a monthly rental contract, and they offer electrical, places to throw out their water, but the person buys the lot to rent them out to multiple people who want to open food carts. Usually, if you want to start a food cart, you can ask someone in the area. You can ask, you can ask around, who's the people that rents those lots, or you can ask who typically, rents out food carts like that. So it's through the city, right? Through, maybe there's a lot or something, but it's private then, huh? Because, that Beaverton example, I've seen almost, I think 2 in Gresham, and they're going to put another one in. So that's private, right? Right. There are a lot of private pods, but also the city is buying or already has specific lots to do that type of or offer that type of food cart pod. So yeah. Thank you so much, Claudia. Really good presentation. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.